Please take your seats. Our workshop is beginning. Thank you. Yes, welcome to our 6 p.m. Thursday evening workshop. If there is, we will not be taking public comment today. If there is comments about what we're discussing, you can email our administrator, Heather Hunter, or you can send an email to publiccomment@lewistonmaine.gov. Administrator Hunter, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Tonight kind of wraps up the miscellaneous section of the budget, and at that point, we've gone through all of the departments. We are on page 77. And just as a reminder, we've already kind of gone through all of the fringe benefit-related insurance and pensions and so forth, so I won't be revisiting those necessarily tonight. So we'll be focusing on the other account. The first account is the private school. That's the school busing that we do. That has an overall decrease of about $1,300 based upon school days, and then the increase in the contract with Western Maine Transit. That is for the parochial busing that we are required to do. We do about the equivalent of 1.5 buses for 175 school days. They do 4 runs per day. Any buses that go to St. Dom's directly, those are paid for by St. Dom's. Those are not part of this funding formula. The insurances increased by $370,000 or 6.9%. Non-fringe related insurance, so the liability, the inland marine and so forth, that rose by about $9,300. We had a small decrease in liability coverage of about $1,600, and that was offset by increases in property coverage due to experience, and inland marine coverage, which is about an $8,000 increase. And just so you understand, inland marine are movable equipment that aren't considered to be vehicles. It's not actually marine equipment that we own. So it's your excavators, those types of things. So we have some new additions, so that's why that has kind of increased from that standpoint. Retirement, just to kind of reiterate, that had an increase of $368,000 or 9.2. Workers' comp, we've discussed already, had an increase of about $44,500 or 5%. And just as a reminder, we've set aside an additional $250,000 from fund balance to start paying off our building that gap for the unfunded liability. Turning to the next page on 78, we have municipal dues and donations. I think if the council doesn't mind, I'd like to come back to that because that's when we'll have some public speaking about the cash donation requests. So we'll jump ahead to the tax sharing. Tax sharing, it relates to the Monty Hydro Station. The city has 2 tax sharing arrangements with the city of Auburn. One is the sphere of influence, if you will, around the Lewiston Auburn Airport. So they pay us tax sharing on that. Conversely, we have the Monty Hydro Station in Lewiston, and we pay the city of Auburn tax sharing for that. So that is currently budgeted as being flat right now. That's contingent upon the final tax rate that will be proposed to you. We pay 17.5% of the taxes. That was a 50-year agreement. That is looking at sunsetting in about 2035. So we're, it's a long-standing agreement that's coming closer and closer to the end. And that is based upon the valuation right now. The estimate for the Monty Hydro Station is $36,037,200. So it was a decent investment. Salary reserve we talked about initially, so that had an increase of $435,000, essentially $800. That is made up of 2 components. One component is the water, sewer, and stormwater enterprise overhead credit back to general fund to pay for overhead services, for admin, HR, those types of things. So that credit was $379,000. The balance of that account, or $586,000, is for the actual reserve piece, for any unanticipated positions, fluctuations in salaries based upon the labor market, as well as set aside monies for labor negotiation contracts, grievances with reclasses and so forth. So that makes up the balance of that. The other miscellaneous category had an increase of $12,000 or 24.2%. That's all in miscellaneous services. We had an increase of that $12,000, and as we're looking forward to more and more training and community initiatives and so forth, we had increased the budget so you can start doing community forums if you want to do that. That's for the police to do public outreach. That's for counselors, if we want to have a strategic planning session and invite the public. It just gives us some funding to work for. If it's not needed, then obviously it just laps into fund balance and rolls forward for the following year. And just so you know, in this particular case, the other fees that you see in that category, that's for the external audit that's done. So if there's no questions, I'll jump back up to the dues and donations.
Councillor Jelinas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administrator Hunter, can we back up to the transportation line?
Yep.
So I hear you say that that's for the parochial schools, and I'm assuming not just St. Thomas, but like Central Maine Christian Academy and some of the other private schools that taxpayers opt to send their children to.
My understanding, and I will double check this, it's only for the parochial schools.
So not the private Christian schools?
Correct.
Okay. Has this line always been here? I mean, I know that the Department of, I know that the school gets an allotment of money for special education for kids who are attending private school, and I'm wondering, or parochial school, I'm wondering if, has this always been here? Did
Yes.
that get lifted out of the education?
Nope, nope, it's always been there. And I'd have to revisit it because during the Great Recession, this line item was obviously under scrutiny. And there is, it's not state law, but there was a referendum passed that required the city to fund this.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Am I explaining, Linda,
Yeah, I
that's
don't
generally,
remember
I
exactly
could
the
dig up the
detail.
details if needed.
Further questions from the council?
Okay, so dues and donations, we'll start with dues because that covers two organizations the city belongs to. One is the Maine Municipal Association that runs just shy of $29,000. And then we have AvCog. So we're kind of jumping back up to the top of page 78. And then the other, like I mentioned, is for the Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments. That is $26,750. We had a small increase at the MMA Association of about $1,300 this year. And recently I sent you the work that AvCog did on behalf of the Arpa money that they received for our area micro businesses, which obviously provided more funds to our taxpayers and then clearly we were paying into that. Donations. We have a number of cash donations, which I'll invite the organizations to speak if they're here. Overall, if you do everything as the norm that has been in the past, we had an increase of just over $1,200. Typically, the city budgets annually $10,000 for the Liberty Festival. We had increased that amount back in 2017, so that's stayed relatively constant. This account also covers the flags for the cemeteries for Memorial Day, so that included a $300 increase. That's $6,300. And then we also pay the city's portion of the snowmobile registration fee to the Snowmobile Association, Hillside Snowmobile Riders. So as those registration fees fluctuate, obviously that contribution fluctuates. So we pay them $6.62 per registration as a donation for that. And we're estimating 667 registrations for that. So if we held everything constant, that would be the fluctuations. So we had several additional cash contributions and 2 capital campaign requests. In addition, we have in-kind services that we have requested. So that's the first sheet that you will see in your packet. So this year, based upon the requests submitted to date, we have in-kind request of $42,874.25. Given that there are many more activities with things opening up, that represents about a $33,000 increase from last year's request because things were still semi-shuttered and events were canceled. So you start seeing more and more of those events going out. What this
I'm sorry, Administrator Hunter. What's the amount of the increase from last year?
$33,308.25.
Thank you.
So what this in-kind contribution covers, generally speaking, for the most part, is public works setup and takedown. It could include some traffic direction by the police department. It may include, trash pickup, cans, and some instances, tables and chairs and things like that. And this is built into the various departments' budgets. So that is the offset. Additionally, we had a number of organizations request cash donations. So as was communicated with you and was also communicated with the various organizations, that similar to a public comment period, we would do the 3-minute kind of presentation on their parts since we had so many new ones this year. You also received all of the information that they submitted ahead of time in your packet, so you will see that. I will share with you, I will need council's very, very, very specific direction on this because my mom is on the Androscoggin Historical Society Board and they are requesting a capital campaign. So I want to make sure that is as transparent, and I will need direction of you, whether you wanted to do fund balance or whatever from that.
If I may.
Councillor Scott.
Just before we go to that, can I just go back to this first page that you had here?
Certainly.
And I just want to verify, so.
I'm sorry, Councillor Scott, what do you mean by first page?
The page with the municipal donations. and
The in-kind.
The
the
in-kind.
request, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On this one where we have the Riverfest Regatta, the 2022 and 2023, that's because we didn't have funding last year. You're putting in for this year's event and next year's event for the 2023 fiscal year.
Right, because
Okay.
they had not submitted by the deadline for last year. So you will see that, and you will also see that for the
Trek.
Trek across Maine.
Okay.
And then that gets them on that
Yep.
annual cycle after
I just want to make sure I was understanding that
Yes.
correctly. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to call them down or if you want me to go in order as they're presented. The Liberty Festival is already in the budget. I believe Kathy is here, that if you want them to start, and then we would go down through there if that works for everybody.
Sounds great to me.
Okay. So again, I don't have that near, so Kathy?
Kathy.
So we're going to ask you to present at the podium if you.
Yes, if you could please come to the
Okay.
podium and please say your name and your organization's name. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy McDonald. I'm with the Liberty Festival, or Independence Day Committee. And our celebration is the 4th of July and celebrating our community and saluting and thanking our veterans who have served for us. So we will be hopefully celebrating on the 4th with the rain date on the 5th. We're hoping on July 3rd that we'll be doing a salute to the American flag and to our veterans and honoring some of our local hometown heroes. on the 3rd. We're trying to secure the 195th Army Band to perform that evening, but we're waiting for answers from them because several of the members have been deployed. So whether they'll be back in time to perform is one of the things that's up in the air. So we're planning to do everything as we've done in the past. Last year, we just had fireworks. The year before, we had nothing because of COVID. I think our community is more than ready to celebrate and appreciate everything that we have here in Lewiston, Auburn, and honor those who have served for us and our independence. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Councilor LaChapelle?
Kathy, congratulations on your group for you've been doing this for 20-plus years. Congratulations for staying strong. This is not an easy job.
Yeah.
Congratulations. A lot of work and a lot of volunteer time, that 20 years worth of volunteer time.
It's almost 40.
It's almost 40.
But just so everyone knows, I was 3 when I started.
I remember doing it with you back in the day, so good job.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor and the council, before we jump into the new request, I also wanted to share that all of the organizations on this list have been invited to submit for the Arpa nonprofit grant. We are still trying to, do outreach with regards to getting those funds available and in the hands of the nonprofits that need it as a result of COVID. So Androscoggin Healthcare and Hospice would be the next.
Oh, okay, thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to fireworks. Is Androscoggin Home Care, Healthcare and Hospice here? Anyone from Androscoggin? Okay, thank you.
So, Community Health Counseling Service would be the next one.
Okay. Anybody from Kennebec Behavioral Health? Yep.
Hi there. I'm Tom Kenny from Kennebec Behavioral Health. I'm the Development and Grants Coordinator. We provide services for those with severe and persisting mental illness and substance use disorder in Central Maine communities. So we've served, last year we served 148 residents of Lewiston, which added up to a total of $305,333.15 of uncompensated care. So to help cover some of those costs, we are requesting just $500 just to help out with some of our programs and keep things going. So in this area, some of the services that we provide specifically to residents, or we provided last year, was through our Clubhouse, Looking Ahead Clubhouse, which provides services to those looking for vocational rehab, which is really amazing. If you haven't been there, you should definitely check it out. Home and community-based therapy, which helps kids and their families, and medication clinic and outpatient therapy. And yeah, so any support that we could receive would be incredible. Any questions?
Can you please tell us what the Looking Ahead Clubhouse is?
Yeah, so the Looking Ahead Clubhouse helps those with severe and persisting mental illness. It helps them just have a place to go, a place to be, and helps them to line up job opportunities. So we do transitional employment and also supportive employment. So we have partners in the community that give those folks opportunities so they get to have real jobs and get to be independent and just have more opportunities. It's pretty awesome.
Where is it located?
It's at 646 Main Street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions from the council? I'm sorry, are you finished with your?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Further
Awesome.
questions from the council? Councilor Pease.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was looking at that and $3.38. I mean, that's like, are you kidding me? $500 is peanuts to me. Right? It's probably a lot to some other people, but for an organization like this, I think that's low. I don't know if there's any way we can increase it or not, but I don't think there's anywhere near enough in the budget for that. Thank you.
Councillor Scott?
Thank you. I just want to thank you for all the great work that you're doing. The Looking Ahead Clubhouse is in my ward. I walk by there on a regular basis, and all I hear is great things are happening there. And it's constant. And I do know that there has been a request for a crosswalk in that area. I have heard that request. I know that there's a bus stop across the street, and it makes it really tough for people to cross. But I know that there are plans in effect, and I've spoken with David Hediger at Planning about some of the crosswalk that might be coming forward, and some at Montello Street also, just a little further to make it easier for the folks that use that. So I just wanted to let you know that, and thank you for all the great work.
Thank you so much.
I would also share that for those of you who visited City Hall during kind of the peak of the COVID, when we had the hall monitors kind of doing customer counts, all of those individuals were hired from Looking Ahead Clubhouse.
Far out.
Further questions from the council? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
St. Mary's commit to get fit, sorry. I know they are not coming because they are just organizing this event, so we will probably hear more from them later.
For the rest of the list, I will defer to you, Administrator Hunter.
Sorry about that. Androscoggin Historical Society.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. I'm wearing this because I'm just recovering from a bodacious cold, and I don't want the microphone or anyone to be affected by it. My name is David Chittum. I am the great pleasure to serve as a director on the board of the Androscoggin Historical Society. We have been an august institution since 1923, so next year we will be celebrating our centennial. For the past 86 years, we have been toiling in relative obscurity on the third floor of the county building in Auburn. As you may know, we have taken the bold and audacious step to move to Lewiston. We have purchased the former Murphy and Coyne Law Office and are moving in as we speak. We do not have an opening date, but it's an exciting time for us. About 5 years ago, the board looked at our history, looked at our situation, looked at our location, and decided that we had come to a fork in the road. We took Yogi Berra's advice and we took it. We grabbed the opportunity when we learned that 93 Lisbon Street was available, and with great rapidity figured out a way to finance it and actually purchase the building. We are now the owners of that lovely piece of real estate. The next move is to figure out how we're going to pay for that financing, how we're actually going to move tens of thousands of historical artifacts from the third floor of the county building across the river to our new home in the largest city in Androscoggin County, and we're very excited about that. We're here tonight to ask you for help in our capital campaign, which has a 3-year vision. The first year we would be paying off essentially the mortgage that we acquired to purchase the building, and for the next 2 years, we would be transitioning into an organization that differs significantly from the one that we've been for the past 100 years. We have been a hidden resource for the community, and we intend to become a much more visible, much more available resource. We already have discussions ongoing with Marcela Perez at the library. We are planning to be talking with the school departments about educational outreach to expand on the work that we've done at the Night House across the river and the West Auburn Schoolhouse, which we've recently acquired. My, 3 minutes goes by very quickly, doesn't it?
Please continue, sir.
I'm going to reserve the last 20 seconds for any questions the council or the mayor may have.
Councillor Scott?
So I'm not a historian, but I do love the history of our community. And I have visited the Androscoggin Historical in Auburn several times. As a homeschool parent, I use that as a resource constantly with my kids to learn about all the different historical buildings that we had in both communities. So I'm extremely excited that you're coming across over here. And it's, I believe, going to be much more accessible for both communities to use over here and actually see all the wonderful things that you have about our history. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Councillor Pease.
Well, being a member, I think it's a great thing that we're doing this because get it down to the ground level where there's a lot of accessibility to other residents in both cities that could not make the top floor. And I hope that we have a lot larger area to work with because it's very interesting, it's very informative, and the help there is excellent. So if you ever have any questions, just feel free to go. I think it's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. One final comment. We, to my knowledge, have not asked for money from the city ever in our history. I can't speak for the first 10 years, but at least the last 90 years, we have not asked for money. So if it helps the pain any, you could consider amortizing your hoped-for gift over the past century. Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, the Center for Wisdom's Women is next.
Do we have anyone here for Center for Wisdom's Women?
So next would be the Gender and Franco Center.
Hi, my name is Denise Gammon. I'm here from the Franco Center. First, I want to say what Elaine wanted to say. We want to thank you very much and say we are very grateful for the $250,000 that was allocated last year. And tonight, I'd like to tell you how much progress we've made in requesting funds from various entities. So we have professional estimates for multiple projects of repair work, rehabilitation, and improvement projects at the Franco Center that so far they total $3.7 million. We have a total ask figure of $5.3 million. That amount comes from private foundations, city government. So for example, Lewiston has given us $250,000. We are asking for an additional $400,000. Auburn will be asked for $250,000 through Arpa. We've reached out to the Androscoggin County Commissioners, and we should be scheduled to meet with them April 20th. We have been in touch with and enjoyed our conversations with Senator Collins' office, Senator King's office, and Congressman Golden's office. Let's see. So so our work estimates total $3.7 million. We have asks out there for $5.3 million. And was there anything that you needed to know about the projects?
Councillor Pease.
That's all part of repairing the spheres up through the roofing, all of that, repointing. That's all part of that same program, isn't it?
It's the buttresses. So a few weeks ago, we used some of the money from Lewiston to repair one of the buttresses that's in dire need of emergency repairs. So it's buttresses. And our projects have to be flexible because while they're repairing the buttresses and they have the scaffolding up, we might as well repair the granite facade rather than take the scaffolding back and do a distinct project on just the granite facade. Same thing with the stained glass windows and the plexiglass that covers the outside of the windows. The scaffolding is extremely expensive. So if we can manage the projects to be flexible, then we'll save some money that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, actually a little bit more.
Okay.
I know that replacing that plexi, there are newer types of plexi out there
Yes.
that will not discolor and everything like they are.
That's
I
right.
know they were much more expensive. Right? And as far as the staging concerned, 100%. That's a smart move. You got to do it because it's just a big cost for nothing if you take it
Absolutely.
down.
And so inside, we're hoping to install curtains on the stained glass windows in the upper floors so that we can have a darkened theater. But as we've gotten that estimate, we've discovered that each shade is 163 pounds. We have 18 windows just at the top level. So, you know, we might be revisiting that when the time comes. That wouldn't be a first-year project.
Well, I think this should be maintained and preserved as a piece of property that we've had in the city for many, many years, and I really hate to see it disintegrate.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Councilor LaChapelle.
When the Franco Center first got started, didn't they receive like $1 million federal grant for work on the outside to fix the outside?
Yes, and some of the buttresses were fixed. So, for example, we just got an updated estimate for one of the buttresses today, and that one buttress was $166,000, and that doesn't count the scaffolding or the granite repair. So when they did get that earlier money, they used the money up repairing, you know, whatever, they spent all the money on repairs.
On the outside, they did not complete the work on the outside?
Well, they didn't ask for enough money to do all the buttresses.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think there's, was there 19 buttresses? Oh, you're going to talk about it?
If you don't mind, thank you. Michael LaJoy, I live on Old Green Road in Lewiston. I'm also the Vice President of the Board at the Franco Center. And I also spend some volunteer time on a daily basis down there. I'm more like the maintenance man. The $1 million in the first capital campaign was used to do the whole front of the building, including some of the sides where the stairs go up to the side entrances, and a little bit around the backside. There were a couple of buttresses that were done beyond that, but they ran out of money. So then they continued trying to get prices, working with the same contractor. However, as the time moved along, the money wasn't available, therefore the work laxed, and therefore damage came upon the building due to the weather and the cold winters, as well as frost forming in back of the granite stones. And when that happens, you have a hydraulic pressure, and that hydraulic pressure will push out the granite stones. And as Denise mentioned a few weeks back, just before a performance, where the performers were going to come into the back, this is a corner buttress, there's two buttresses there. And what happened is one of these stones, granite stones, they weigh about 8 pounds, depending on the size, and it fell from 14 feet, a height of 14 feet. So if that would have hit somebody, you know, we'd be in bad shape. So what I did is I cordoned off the area, and we called the individual that we're working with, the contractor, and they came in and they took care of putting 2x6 lumber on the outside of the buttress, and then they put lag bolts in the wall, and they tightened the boards onto the buttress to hold the stones in. It's quite a project. And then what they did to the others that we have problems with is they put spaces between the stones so they would create pressure as if there was concrete between them, so they won't fall out. So that's where we are right now. And as Denise mentioned, that corner buttress, I did get the pricing today, and it's $166,000 to fix that particular one. However, during that time, when they take a buttress completely apart, they may have to go into the wall. Going into the wall, the contractor says what we should do is finish the wall. If it needs to be done, remortared and or sectioned and waterproof because of the staging being up, so which makes a lot of sense. So that's where we are right now, and we're continuing to concentrate to bring the building up to the best possible way we can.
Thank you. Councilor Bees.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but when that church was built, it wasn't built with cement. It was built with lime set. Lime set is a completely different
That's correct.
item. And that's why over the years, this is a disintegrated product. And redoing it with actual cement is going to sustain any more problems from happening. It's going to keep it together for a number of years to come. And so I just wanted the general public to know that that's lime set, that's not cement, and it needs to be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next group is the Life Flight Foundation.
Anybody here from Life Flight?
And then the last group is the Rally for Recovery. That's part of the LA Public Health Committee.
Stay here or do I go there?
You can stay there.
Okay, I'm the chair of the Lewiston Area Public Health Committee, and last year we had our inaugural Rally for Recovery in September. We held it at Kennedy Park, and we had over 20 resources there in the form of agencies and different entities that support substance use disorder and recovery. And it was just a huge step for Lewiston, moving toward just being a recovery-ready community. Very well attended. There were speakers, we had music, and we had, we did this on no budget at all. We're making a request of $1,000 to help us with some marketing. We think it can be a bigger event. We had one of our members, we had formed a committee, and one of our members donated some audio equipment, but it really wasn't so great. So we're hoping to be able to use some monies to rent that. We had some area, like the Green Ladle and the Vineyard Christian Church, they donated food, they were there helping out, but we obviously could do better than that. They'll continue to commit, and it will be a community-wide agency again, community-wide effort again, but just looking for this to be a bigger event on September 17th of this year, again, holding it at Kennedy Park, so making that request. Any questions?
I was just going to say, Linda, you were there, and I was there, and yeah, it was. I learned an awful lot, and yeah, we should definitely be doing it again. Yeah, for sure. Councillor Scott?
I'd just add that it was a great event. It was a great turnout. It was great speakers, and it was just really nice to see everybody having those great conversations and just having a good time. I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you.
And I would love feedback. I mean, we had a great lineup. We had Dr. Vinzel, who specializes in working with people, and there was a person in long-term recovery. I shared my personal story about losing my son to an accidental overdose death, and there was just a lot of really great resources there, like I said. So I'm open to hearing ideas from my fellow counselors about what they'd like this to look like. So, thank you.
Further comments or questions from the council? Thank you so much, Councillor.
So at this point, you have heard all of, I'm sorry?
Can we see if there was anyone who has come in from any groups that we have missed? Anything you'd like to add, Kathy?
I'm Kathy McDonald, and I realized after I sat down that there was no one here from Androscoggin Home Health Care and Hospice, and I am on their foundation board. So I'm not sure what their request is, but I just want to say that Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice is a wonderful organization, and we're so fortunate to have it in our community. And if you've ever had any participation with that organization or the house, the hospice house, it's unbelievable. and the employees and the volunteers and everyone that participates in that organization. So any support that the city can give to them. They provided over $1 million and I think it was 1 million of uninsured care last year. So, nobody gets turned away if they need the care. So as a member of their board, I would really appreciate the city's support. Any questions or comments or?
Councillor Scott.
I would just like to thank you for the work that's done over there. I had to personally use them for my husband, and after a very long time in the hospital, almost 100 days and 2 months in ICU, if it wasn't for the folks over there that came to my home and helped me set up a whole hospital room in our house and it was just an amazing thing to have in a time when I couldn't focus or think about the things that we needed to have. So thank you for the work that you do. It's great.
It's a great organization, and I thank God every day that we have them here.
I was just going to say, yes, I have incredible amount of respect for Ken and the work that his team does. And yes, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Administrator.
Okay. So at this point, we have gone through all of the budget presentations, and we're really looking at seeking direction from the city council on where they would like to see this budget headed at this point. I mean, you know what we started out at. And the school committee is going to be presenting their final revised budget, at least at this point, on Tuesday. At that point, I will also be bringing adjustments so you can see where we stand on the city side. And right now, we're at 32.35, is what we started this process with, which is a $4.09 increase. I understand the school department is down to now a 99-cent increase. The county is set, so that's going to be the 6-cent increase. Right now, the city's at $1.55. I don't anticipate staying at that rate. So, but I would appreciate any direction, or if there's specific direction the council wants to see, and we will also at that same time review the parking lot list to make sure there's anything that wants to be brought back or included as part of that discussion before we hopefully get into the final rounds of budget deliberations. Likewise, if there's the Liberty Festival is included in the budget as it was presented. The organizations that follow under the new requests currently are not in the budget. So I would appreciate feedback on that, because that would allow me to determine, what I present to you Tuesday. So I don't know if council's in a position to start looking at some of that now, or if they want to see where we're at Tuesday and then opine on that. I would defer to council on that.
I have a question or a request here. So the St. Mary's Commit to Get Fit Challenge, there's no specified amount, but I would like to go back to them and ask them to come back with an amount, so that way we'll have something to consider.
Okay. You also had that same issue with Androscoggin.
Oh, then them as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Jelinas, did you have
I was
something?
just going to ask about the no specified amount, thank you. So that's going to be forthcoming is what you're saying?
They have not done that. We've reached out to them and we still have not had an amount, a specific amount. I think they're leaving it up to the council, what they want to do. They have not specified an amount.
Please tell them the mayor requests an amount.
Okay.
Councillor Pease?
What have we done in the past?
Like I said, I think normally we do not have this many requests. In the past, there was one additional, and it was a very small amount, I want to say in the neighborhood of $300 to $500. Do you remember what organization that was, Councilor Jelinas or Councilor Clement, last year? There was one that we kind of re-added. I can look and send that out. I can't recall which organization that was. But normally what we do is, if they're small amounts, which, obviously, most of these are the smaller amounts. We look at seeing where things stand in the current operating budget, and I look at funding them this year, rather than impacting the 2023 budget.
Okay.
So that's what we were able to do because of the training and miscellaneous and all of those. Nobody was going anywhere. We were able to absorb some of those last year. Additionally, like I had mentioned, all of these organizations have been asked to at least evaluate the Arpa grant program. And as I might remind the new counselors, if you're not aware, that is a $25,000, up to a $25,000 grant. That covers operating costs, and it's kind of two-pronged. It covers those revenues that they may have lost as a result of the pandemic, i.e. billable hours because they were shuttered or something like that. The second component that we added in is if their services, the demand has increased it's attributed to the pandemic. So for example, Tri-County Mental Health was a prime example of that. So those are kind of the two prongs. It works where they have to apply for this. They furnish certain information. It is underwritten by a contract employee with we contract with LAGC's underwriter through the chamber. He will send that to the loan qualification committee with a recommendation, and the loan qualification committee, tends to vote up or down on that. To this date, pretty much everybody that has applied has been awarded something. We were able to qualify them. Obviously, we've had 2 capital campaign requests that kind of fell outside of the budget process. We have 2 capital campaign requests that are falling within the budget process. Generally speaking, regardless of the organization, capital campaign requests would qualify for a fund balance allocation because it's not continued operating cost. It is hopefully, a one and done or a series and done. So that's how you can justify the capital campaign from the fund balance. That's the $2 million that was set aside for Museum LA, and the first $250,000 for the Franco Center were fund balance allocations.
Deputy Administrator O'Malley, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the St. Mary's Get Fit Challenge. I know it's in the planning phase, but we reached out to them today, and they're just looking for in-kind services. That would be from our Public Works and Police Department as opposed to actual cash donation is what they've indicated at this point.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the 400 requested from the Franco Center, is that another 150, or that's an additional 400?
It's at an additional 400,000.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Scott?
That's what I was going to ask also. And also, in the memo from the Franco, we have they want this to be each year for the next 4 years as a $400,000 request?
That is my understanding.
Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Further, or anything else to add, Administrator?
No, if I could, I don't know if you're in a position to do any direction on these. Should I build them into a revised budget? Should I keep them on the parking lot for now, or how would you like me to proceed?
Councilor LaChapelle?
I know we haven't addressed the LCIP yet, but how do we, if we start bonding stuff, we have to start making payments on it. So if we overbond stuff, we have more payments for 23, so we have to take those payments into consideration in the budget, do we not? Or
Technically, anything that is financed or authorized for 2023, I would not bond until at least 2024, if not later.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about,
You will always have, but because of that pace, it is allowing us to essentially, what we're paying off is what we're adding on. So the attempt is to try to stay budget neutral. The only thing that could throw a glitch into that plan is if the interest rates rise substantially,
Okay.
which we are looking at.
So I haven't done the math real quick. Where are we at? You said we're, hold on. We're at
260.
260. Yep, thank you. 260 on the city side.
260.
260 total, just 260 on the city side, 99 cents on the school side.
No, 155.
155 on the city
It's right
side
here.
And 99 cents.
155 and 99,
And
Correct.
6 cents for the county.
and 6 cents for the county.
6 cents.
260.
And that includes the additional revenue, the additional money from revenue sharing?
No, that's part of the proposal that will be brought before you on Tuesday.
And it doesn't
I-
include these.
Right, okay. I would suggest that we parking lot this and
Okay,
then
perfect.
consider it at that time.
Okay, I will bring that on the parking lot list. And at that point, I am all set.
You don't have the mirror, so you can't see.
I know, I can't, you guys are all looking, I'm like, all right, is
Well,
somebody coming up?
We'd warn you.
Okay.
Deputy Administrator O'Malley, would you like to add something?
Yeah, Shannon Cox would like to address about the Riverfest Rowing Regatta for the 2022 that you had questioned about the funding.
Please continue, Director Cox,
Thanks.
President and CEO.
Shanna Cox, President and CEO of the LA Metro Chamber, and I live at 250 Sabata Street here in Lewiston. And I know that you're not hearing comments on the in-kind request, but you did mention the oddity of the 2022 and 2023 funding request, and I'd love the opportunity to address that very briefly.
Please continue.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Last year, the rowing regatta was held in July, so in this current fiscal year, and it was the initial Riverfest, and so there was not the opportunity to know how that event would go to get it in advance for the 2022 Riverfest for this year. The date this year is June 17th and 18th, so it's about 18 days before the end of your 2022 fiscal year, which is why you're getting both this year's application and next year's. We are hoping that the fact that you have already got an application for something that is 16 months out is an indication of us trying to prepare in advance and support any coordination with the city. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I know it's small dollars, but it'd be pretty easy to say why bother with 2 in 1 year, and I wanted to give a relevant COVID explanation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything further, Administrator Hunter?
No.
Deputy Administrator O'Malley?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. At this time, yes, this concludes the budget workshop. May I have a motion to go into executive session for a personnel matter? Councillor Pease, may I have a second?
Second.
Councillor Clement, all in favor? Yes, okay.
And
Thank you.
just for clarification, that's MRS Title 1, Section 405-6A for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Hunter. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. We will not be coming back.